back up a charge." Henderson's voice cracked over the intercom. 3 Panthers, 1 Sherman, us. The textbook said reverse. Find hull down cover, pray for artillery. The textbook got a lot of crews killed. I could see the lead Panthers commander in his cupola scanning right, expecting us to run. They always expected us to run. Colonel Abrams' voice was in my head. "They think like chess players, so play checkers." I had 3 seconds to decide, 3 seconds to choose between what made sense and what might actually keep my crew breathing. I keyed the intercom and said, "Forward, full throttle." Henderson didn't hesitate. Farm kid from Iowa, knew how to commit. The Sherman lurched ahead, 30 tons screaming across wet field. Our 76 millimeter wasn't loaded. Murphy was fumbling an AP round, hands shaking like they always did. The Panthers started traversing, but we were closing too fast. 800 yards, 600, 400. Their shots went high, compensating for range that wasn't there anymore. I could see the lead commander's face now. Young, maybe 22. He looked confused. We were at 200 yards when Murphy slammed the breech closed and yelled, "Up!" The Panther fired. We fired. The field turned orange and black, and for a second I thought we were dead. But when the smoke cleared, the Panther's turret was 6 feet off its hull, and we were still moving, still breathing. I'm 97 years old. That was September 20th, 1944, 80 years ago this month, and I still can't explain how we won at Aleksandr. The Germans had better tanks, better guns, better armor, better optics, better everything. On paper, we should have been slaughtered. 500 American tanks against 600 German Panzers. We lost 25. They lost 281, the largest tank battle on the Western Front, and nobody remembers it. But here's what keeps me awake at night. It wasn't tactics. It wasn't training. It was something stranger. Something about the way we thought versus the way they thought. Something about being willing to do the thing that should kill you. Let me take you back to where it started. Aleksandr, France, September 18th, 1944. Patton's Third Army was punching east toward the German border when Hitler decided to hit back hard. 5th Panzer Army, fresh Panthers and Mark IVs, veteran crews from the Eastern Front who'd been killing Russian tanks for 3 years. They were supposed to cut us off, collapse our flank, maybe throw us all the way back to Paris. Henderson had seen that Panther commander's face, the confusion, that look of a man watching something that shouldn't be happening. That's what started everything. I was commanding Cobra King, an M4A1 Sherman with the 76 millimeter gun. Still couldn't punch through a Panther's frontal armor at combat range. The Germans knew this. They'd been killing Shermans 4-1 in Normandy, called us Tommy Cookers, because we burned so easy. Murphy kept that first AP round we fired, scratched checkmate on it later with his trench knife. Never explained why, and I never asked. Our battalion commander was Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, 37th Tank Battalion, 4th Armored Division. West Point graduate, but he fought like a dock brawler. The morning of the 19th, he gathered all tank commanders at 0445. Didn't give us a speech. Just asked one question in the pre-dawn cold, our breath steaming in the September air. What does a Panzer commander expect you to do when he sees you? Reverse. Find cover. Call for artillery. Abrams nodded, chewing on an unlit cigar he always kept in his mouth. And when you do exactly what he expects, what happens? He kills us methodically, one by one. So, nobody answered. We stood there trying to understand what he wanted from us. Then Henderson, who never spoke in briefings, said quietly, "Do something else." Abrams smiled. First time I'd seen that. Fast tanks beat heavy tanks if the heavy tank is thinking. Make him react, not think. Make him question what he's seeing. Those 3 seconds of confusion are when you kill him. We got moving by 0500. Murphy was loading ammo, muttering, "It's just a bigger pop gun. Panthers have us by 40 tons and 20 millimeters of gun." He wasn't wrong. The math didn't favor us. A Panther could kill us at 1,500 yards. We had to get inside 400 to have a chance. That's a long, fatal distance to cross. But Murphy said something that morning that stuck with me. Something I didn't understand until years later. "When this is over, I'm going to teach my girl to fight, really fight, so she never has to hope some guy with a tank shows up to save her." He had a daughter in Brooklyn he'd never met, 3 years old. His wife sent pictures every week. He kept them in his breast pocket, wrapped in oilcloth to protect them from the damp. We spotted them at 0720, 3 Panthers hulled down behind a hedgerow at about 1,000 yards. Perfect defensive position. They could see the entire approach across open farmland. We were crossing that ground in a wedge formation, 5 Shermans. Lieutenant Morrison on our left, Sergeant Willis on our right, Captain Hayes and Corporal Jackson trailing behind. "They've got us cold," Murphy said, voice tight. "We should pull back, flank left through the tree line." That was the textbook answer. That was smart, logical, professional. That was what got Charlie Company torn apart at St. Lo in July. The Panthers hadn't fired yet. They were waiting, patient, letting us commit to our approach. The lead Panther's turret was traversing slowly, tracking us like a predator watching prey. Professional, disciplined. I watched Henderson's hands on the controls, watched him glancing at the throttle, flexing his fingers. Farm kid who'd raced his father's tractor through cornfields at night with no lights, who understood momentum and nerve better than any West Point manual. "Henderson," I said quietly, keeping my voice calm even though my heart was hammering, "how fast can you get us to 200 yards from here?" 40 seconds if the ground holds, maybe 35 if I push her." "Murphy, can you hit a moving target at 200 yards? His side armor? Clean penetration if you give me the angle?" The Panther was still waiting, still confident, still thinking about fields of fire and penetration tables and all the mathematics that said he owned this battlefield. I keyed the radio. "All tanks, this is Cobra King. Prepared to advance on my mark. Full speed. We're going through them, not around." Silence on the radio. Then Morrison's voice, uncertain. "Cobra King, say again?" "We charge. Straight at them, now before they realize what we're doing." "That's suicide," Willis said flatly. "Staying here is suicide. At least this way we're moving. Mark!" All 5 Shermans lunged forward together, 30 tons each, engines roaring, hitting 25 miles per hour across wet grass that grabbed at our treads. The Panthers traversed toward us, but they were still adjusting for long range, still thinking we'd stop at 800 yards like sensible tankers. We didn't stop. Their first shots went high, right over our turrets. They'd miscalculated our closing speed. 600 yards now, and Murphy was loading, hands shaking worse than ever, fumbling the round. Come on," he muttered. The second Panther got a shot off, hit Morrison's tank in the treads, threw a piece of track 50 feet in the air. But Morrison kept moving on momentum, limping forward on damaged suspension. 400 yards? The Panthers were retraversing, trying to depress their guns enough to hit us at point-blank range. One of them started backing up, trying to gain distance. Mistake. He exposed his thinner side armor 200 yards. "Fire!" I screamed. All 5 of us fired within 2 seconds. The sound was like the end of the world. 3 Panthers, 5 armor-piercing rounds at ranges where you couldn't miss. 2 of the Panthers exploded, ammunition cooking off in chain reactions that turned the hulls into blast furnaces. The 3rd panicked, reversed hard, exposed his rear deck. Henderson didn't wait for orders. He followed, keeping us glued to the German tank's flank. Murphy put a round through the engine compartment at 70 yards. The Panther lurched to a stop, smoke pouring from every hatch. It was 07:23, 3 minutes from first shot to silence. 3 Panthers destroyed, 0 American casualties. Abrams came over the radio, his voice careful and controlled. "Now they know we're crazy. Good. Keep them confused." The German response came at 1400 hours. Not 3 Panthers, 40. 5th Panzer Army wasn't probing anymore. They were committing everything to crush us before we could dig in, before word spread about what we'd done that morning. We'd pulled back to a ridgeline overlooking Ericourt. Good fields of fire, but no cover, just open ground that offered visibility in exchange for protection. Our platoon, 5 Shermans, was anchoring the right flank. The rest of 37th Battalion was spread thin along a mile of front with maybe 30 tanks total. Henderson was checking fuel. Half a tank. Supply convoy hasn't caught up yet. Murphy was restacking ammunition, counting under his breath. 19 AP rounds left. 7 high explosive. I pulled out my binoculars and glassed the valley below. Nothing moving yet. Just autumn fields going brown, scattered stone farmhouses with red tile roofs, a church steeple in the village. Peaceful. Quiet. The kind of quiet that sets your teeth on edge when you know what's coming. "Something's wrong," Morrison said over the radio. His Sherman was sitting 50 yards to our left. Mechanics still working on his damaged track mount. "I haven't seen a single civilian since we got here. No smoke from chimneys, no livestock." He was right. Every farm looked abandoned, like the people had left in a hurry. Doors standing open, laundry still on lines. "They knew," I said. "The locals knew the Germans were coming back. Left yesterday, maybe the day before." Then I heard it. Distant diesel engines, multiple engines, heavy ones, the distinctive sound of Maybach motors that powered German Panzers. The sound echoed strangely in the valley. I couldn't tell where it was coming from. "Contact bearing 170, a forward observer radioed battalion. "I count 23 Panzers, Panthers and Mark IVs. They're forming up behind the village." 23 confirmed. Probably more we couldn't see. Against our 30 operational Shermans. "They're going to do what we did," Henderson said suddenly, his hands tight on the controls. "Charge us. Overwhelm with speed." "No," I said, still watching through binoculars. "They're tankers, engineers. They'll set up a base of fire, maneuver left and right, try to envelop us like they did to the Russians at Kursk." "You sure?" "I'm betting your life on it." Abrams came over the radio at 1450. "All tank commanders, listen carefully. They're going to try to pin us here while they flank through Bézange-la-Petite. If they succeed, they cut off Third Army's entire advance. We cannot let them through this valley." "Sir," Morrison said, his voice strained, "we're outnumbered and outgunned." "I know. That's why we're not playing defense. When they commit to their attack, we're going to charge them again." The radio went silent except for static. "Sir?" I finally said. That worked once because they weren't expecting it. They're expecting it now. "No," Abrams said, and I could hear the cigar in his voice. "They're expecting it to be suicide. They're not expecting us to do it twice. They'll think we've lost our minds, and they'll hesitate. Their commanders will spend 3 seconds trying to understand why we're doing something impossible. And those 3 seconds are when you kill them. Doctrine says you don't charge with light tanks against heavies. So we charge. And they spend 1 second being shocked, 1 second checking their manuals, 1 second asking their commander for orders, and in those 3 seconds, you put a round through their side armor." Morrison keyed his radio. "Colonel, I've got a busted track mount. 1 good hit, and I'm immobilized." "Then you better not get hit, son." Henderson looked at me. He didn't say anything, but I could see the question in his eyes. "Are we really doing this again? Are we really going to charge 40 Panzers?" I didn't have a good answer. At 14:55, the Panzers came out. Not 23, 37. Panthers in front, Mark IVs behind, advancing in parade formation, 500 yards. "Steady," Abrams said. 400 yards, 300. Murphy's hands were shaking. "They're going to fire." The entire German line opened up. The world became noise and dirt. Morrison's Sherman took a direct hit, burst into flames. His crew didn't get out. Henderson was screaming, "They're going to kill us all! Charge!" Abrams roared, 30 American Shermans at 37 German Panzers. The Germans panicked. Their formation wavered. Some reversed. Some held. Orders contradicted. Confusion spread. We fired on the move, Murphy slamming rounds while Henderson wrestled us at full speed. Point blank, a Panther exploded to our right. Willis, a Mark IV, lost its turret. Jackson, we were inside their formation. 200 yards became 100, became 50. They couldn't coordinate. We were too close, too fast. A Mark IV appeared ahead. Henderson couldn't turn. Murphy fired on instinct. The round went through mantlet, fighting compartment, out the rear. The Mark IV veered and we scraped past, Steele screaming, "Left!" Another Panther traversing toward us. Henderson spun hard. We got inside the Panther's traverse. We circled each other, 20 yards apart, both trying for the angle. The German loader was spinning the hand crank. Too slow. Then Morrison's burning Sherman fired one last round, hit the Panther in the engine deck. The German formation broke, fractured into individuals. A Panther backed up, exposed its flank. Overkill. A Mark IV held position, killed 2 of ours. But artillery found it. Nothing left. At 15:20, Henderson stopped. Out of fuel. We sat immobilized, but the remaining Panzers were already pulling back. Murphy counted. 13 Panzers still moving. We'd destroyed 24 in 15 minutes. A German tank commander climbed out of his immobilized Panther 60 yards away. Young. He looked around at the burning wrecks, the smoke. Then he looked at me. Just looked. Not surrendering, not fighting, just witnessing. He sat down on his tank's hull and lit a cigarette. Henderson reached for his pistol. No, let him sit. We watched each other smoke. Him on his dead tank, me on mine. 2 soldiers who'd survived something neither understood. After 30 seconds, he stubbed out his cigarette, raised his hands, walked toward our lines. By 15:30, the battlefield was quiet except for fires and screaming. 17 American tanks destroyed. Morrison's crew burned to death. Willis died from burns the next day. Jackson lost both legs. Hayes took shrapnel, lost his right eye. Maybe 40 to 50 American tankers dead. I didn't know the count, didn't want to, but we'd held. The German attack shattered. They withdrew 6 miles. Supply trucks arrived at 16:30. I climbed out for the first time in 7 hours. My legs barely worked. Henderson threw up. Murphy just sat on the deck, staring, hands still shaking. I walked to Morrison's Sherman, still smoking, hatches open. They'd tried to get out. Morrison's body was halfway out the commander's hatch, frozen there. He was from Oregon, worked timber, had a fiancée named Sarah who sent letters every week. His last words were, "They're gonna kill us all." He was right. They should have. The Battle of Aracourt lasted 6 more days, September 19th through 25th. Every day Germans attacked. Every day we charged. By September 25th, 5th Panzer Army lost 281 tanks. We lost 25. The battle broke Germany's last major offensive on the Western Front. They never massed armor like that again. Henderson made it through Aracourt, survived the Bulge, got killed by a sniper outside Remagen in March 1945, 3 weeks before Germany surrendered, 20 years old. Murphy made it home, worked Brooklyn docks until 1987, taught his daughter to box. She became a lawyer. Murphy died in 1989, heart attack, 68. Morrison never met his daughter. Sarah was pregnant when he died. Didn't tell him, wanted to surprise him. The daughter, Jane, is 79 now, teaches history. I met her in 1998, told her about her father, that last shot from a burning tank. She cried, asked if he suffered. I lied. I did the math once. Direct descendants of 37th Tank Battalion's casualties at Aracourt. Over 2,000 people alive today who wouldn't exist if we'd lost. Doctors, teachers, parents, kids. I'm 97 years old now. Aracourt was 80 years ago. Feels like yesterday. I still dream about that German tank commander sitting on his Panther smoking. Sometimes in the dream I climb down and sit with him. We don't talk, just smoke and watch the world burn. When I wake up, I can't remember his face. There's no memorial at Aracourt. The fields where we fought are farmland again. Morrison, Willis, Jackson, they're not in any history books. But I remember Henderson singing to himself. Murphy's hand shaking every time he loaded a round. Morrison checking his wedding ring when he was nervous. The war took those men, but it didn't take what they gave. Henderson's nieces and nephews, Murphy's grandchildren, Morrison's daughter, and her students, all those lives spreading out like ripples. Sometimes that's all history is, terrified people doing impossible things because someone has to, because the alternative is worse, because your friends are counting on you. I was there. That's all I can say. I was there, and I survived when better men didn't, and I've spent 80 years trying to understand why. I was there.